Hello, Booktube, and welcome back. And a happy new year to absolutely everyone. 2026. Way. I wonder what this year's going to bring. Hopefully, good things. I like what everybody every time says. I can't believe how fast 2025 went. So, let's kick off the new year here with what I read in December 2025. It makes perfect sense. So, December 2025, reading wise for me, was quite good, to be honest. Usually, I kind of relax towards the latter half of the year, straight after the Bailey Gifford, which is in September, October. I kind of, pull the brakes a bit and relax. But I did a fair few. Oh, that's weird. I did a fair chunk of reading in December. A lot of spare time, Kindle, sitting down, great stuff. And can't be bothered counting them all, but I think there's 12 books there. A lot, mostly non-fiction, but there's some fiction in there, and I think the only fiction in there is fantasy. But let's roll down. I think I made like a December update. I think I did. I definitely thought it that I had books I wanted to get to in December 2025. There was 3 books I didn't manage to get to. It was because the flavour of the books. In December you don't want to read depressing books, do you? You want to read uplifting books, festive books. So the 3 books I didn't get to was Empire of AI. I think that's by Karen Howe, which is kind of like how countries are rushing now to develop AI. They're not fully taking into account what that actually means. So I think it's a bit of smells a bit of a doomsday kind of a book. I also skipped 1929. Sorry, I can't remember the author's name, which is looking at the American stock market crash. That's good reading in December, isn't it? And the last one I didn't get to was Murderland, which is a look at, I think it's just looking at American serial killers. But I don't think it's really a biography of serial killers. It's looking at, why serial killers during a specific time, there was a lot of serial killers. And I think the author's discussing, what was going on at the time that might have produced that many serial killers. Pollution. I've read some good reviews, and a lot of people complain about. They bought this book thinking it was going to be something else, and in fact, it's more environmental things that making serial killers kill. So let's talk about the books I managed to get to. And I'll close my phone. Here we go. So the first one is the 3rd volume of the Sharp series. This is Sharp's Fortress by Bernard Cornwell. I said I wanted to begin this series. It's a historical fiction. So I read 5 fiction books then. As we go through this, I'll be like, I read 6. But Sharp is an historical fiction. It's known in the UK as Sharp. I think it was on ITV, starring Sean Bean in the 90s and the noughties. And I never watched it. So I thought, I fancy getting into this, what do you call it, book. I want to watch the telly series, but like with me all the time, I want to watch X, Y, and Z. I never get to it. But Sharp's Fortress is, I think it is the last book of the India campaign, and he fights the arch nemesis of the last book. What's it? I think it's Nod. I think it's Nod. I've probably butchered that completely, but it's basically Sharp getting vengeance and conquering this fortress and becoming the hero. And of course, you've got all the Sergeant Hakesville, who's like the chief villain. I think he's going to be over a lot of the Sharp books. Really kind of like a dirty kind of a character. And yeah, so I'm really enjoying the Sharp books, and they're all based in historical facts, of the India campaign. Obviously, messed around with a bit. So some battles, the battles did exist, and some of the characters within the book did exist. What's given a narrative flair. So yeah, this is Sharp. Good book. I'm enjoying the Sharp series so far. And I've completed the first 3 books, which is the India campaign. I think they're going to Trafalgar next, I think. So, but the first 3 books, quite good, decent books. The next book is a non-fiction book. This is Breakneck by Dan Wang. This is comparing China's economic rise to America's kind of static economy right now. And it's basically saying, China's the engineering state and America is the loyalty society. And America is just throwing, things in front of itself to block progress, whereas the Chinese are pretty much pushing in all kind of areas in the economy. And it's given the pros and cons of doing both. Obviously, the Chinese want to pushing their economies to, individual detriment, and they don't care about X, Y, and Z. Whereas America will, okay, we're not going to do X, Y, and Z because that might affect Y. Oh, sorry, A, or whatever it is. So it's comparing these two countries, and it's really because it talks about COVID, how the Chinese pretty much they locked down their economy. No ifs or buts. They locked down their economy, and people suffered because of that. So it's comparing those two economies, and it's a good book. I don't read that many books about the economy or anything like that, but it's interesting, and the author Dan Wang knows his stuff. So if that sounds interesting, pick it up because it's all right. The next one always is a good one. This is A Man on the Moon. I'm not going to give subtitles to any of these books as I can't remember at the top of my head. I didn't write them down. And this is by Andrew Chaikin. So A Man on the Moon is a non-fiction book, and it's looking at the Apollo astronauts and the people who worked in mission control of all the Apollo missions, and giving it kind of a history look of the 1960s and the 1970s when the Americans were launching the Apollo missions. So you got Apollo, I think it was Apollo 2 or Apollo 1, the disaster of the astronauts dying in the pod, up to Apollo 11, the landing on the moon, Apollo 13, the disaster, I think, which is a movie, isn't it? Yeah, and it's a really, really in-depth history look at the Apollo missions. It's fantastically researched. It talks to former astronauts, people working mission control, historians of Apollo. This is, and it's a bit of a chunker. It's about 700 or 800 pages, whatever it is, but it's well worth a read, especially if you're interested in space or anything to do with NASA. It's a really, really good bit of history. Next one is, well, it's a reread and then the new book. This is a fantasy. Well, it's going to be a fantasy trilogy, but only 2 books are out now. So the reread was No Life Forsaken, and the new book is The God Is Not Willing. This is by Stephen Erickson. I believe the new trilogy is called Tale of Witness. I may have got that wrong, but I don't think I have. So this is a sequel to the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I'm rapidly losing light here, which is, you can't really see it, but it's there. It's like a 10-book series, and it's a really epic fantasy series full of battles. It's very much a military kind of fantasy, and I absolutely adore it. And these two are pretty much a sequel of those 10 books. And it's looking at the remnants of the Malazan army and how they're defending against tribes in I think it's in the south, and it's also defending a city where there's a lot of backstabbing going on. I'm blending this storyline of both of them in one rather than giving you what's going on, because I don't want to spoil anything if you want to get into it. But these books, yeah, so it's the second one after I just said that, is about defending this city and then getting over acts of sabotage and murder. Uh, yeah, and there's a new military person, hired up who comes in, and in typical Malazan way, he kind of throws things into disarray. And the guy who's Arenfell, who's like the former deputy boss, is kind of trying to sort everything out. And then you got all the gods intrigue and stuff like that, all that good stuff from the earlier Malazan books, all that stuff in it, the god intrigue and all that. I love Stephen Erickson's work. If you like the original 10 books, you'll love the new sequel, the new sequel trilogy. It's everything that those 10 books are, with added betterment of the writer, whatever I'm trying to get across to you there. So, yeah, good books, great books. Follow-ups of the Malazan trilogy. There's a bit of the older, the more known characters coming in, but it's more, unknown characters. Next one is, I think when I start filming my top tens and all that, this might be on it. This is a non-fiction book, and I was absolutely blown away with it. This is Mutiny on the Bounty by Peter Fitzsimmons. This is fantastic. So Mutiny on the Bounty, he wasn't a captain. I think he was a lieutenant commander or whatever, but he was acting captain, and he was mutinied against as they were sailing around, and it's all about his survival of when they were kicked off, because he had to, they were only in a dinghy, these, I think it's 15 guys, and he had to sail, I think, 4,000 miles or something. It was a big trek. And then they eventually survive, and then it's all of them, getting back to England, and then it's the mutineers, their story of, getting found out. This book, it reads like like fiction. It's like you're reading a story, because the author's using, ship logs and captain logs and diaries of everyone, and Peter's forming a narrative, and it's so good. It's so inviting. I recommend this book, even if you're not interested in naval history or anything like that. It's so good, because the guy who got mutinied against by, he wasn't the greatest captain. When you read it, you can't. Oh, I feel a bit sympathetic towards him, and then next few pages, no, don't. Because not only was the guy mutinied against in the first, for people who remain loyal to him, wanted to mutiny against them again, and it's not really talked about, but about 20 years after the mutiny on a Bounty, the only British military coup in our history happened when he was governor, and he was removed from office. He wasn't a good leader at all. He didn't know how to de-escalate. He escalated further, and he was patronising, and he was just not a great fella. And the guy who led the mutiny against him, he also he seemed like a nice bloke, but he was again that class system that we have in the UK of, oh, he's my captain, but my family's greater than his family. That's what he was kind of like, and how dare he speak to me like that? Oh, the Mutiny on a Bounty, people, you need to read this book. It is fantastic. And that's by Peter Fitzsimmons. So I've done that. Okay, the next two are fantasy books again, and it's by, I've put the central heating on, and I'm in a little box room, and I'm wearing a hoodie. So these two books are, I can't remember what the actual series is called, but it's by Robert Jackson Bennett, and it's A Drop of Corruption. Oh, the first book is called The Tainted Cup, and the next one is called A Drop of Corruption. And this is very much in a kind of Sherlock and Holmes, Dr. Watson. Yeah, Sherlock and Watson, sorry. Yeah, I was like, I've got that wrong somehow. It's where it's a very unique look at a fantasy. You know, it's not the usual fantasy tropes here, you know, big battles and dragons and mages. It's basically these two people solving crimes in wherever they are, you know. And I think Robert Jackson Bennett can really can write a narrative story, and it's so good. I'm in the second one. I managed to guess what was going on, unfortunately, but read the first book, and if it's your deal of okay, this sounds it's up my street. It's a bit of a different fantasy. It's more of a more niche, you know. It's a murder mystery in a fantasy setting, so it's not hard on the fantasy. It's more on the murder mystery side, but it's good. It's good. And then if you like the first one, go to the second one because it's pretty much the same. And the next one is oh man, I went blank then. I was like, so this is Everybody Wins. This is by James Wallace, and this is pretty much a book for me. It might not be for you. One of my hobbies is board gaming. I love board gaming, and what this book is about is the Spielers Yarns. Oh, I think I've just butchered that name. It's basically a German award for games that are published in Germany, which they think was the best of the year. And I think it starts in the late 70s, goes all the way up to now. And it's basically given a bit of history of why that board game was selected that year. And then like an epilogue to the story, kind of gives you some of the mechanics, you know, what we're talking about, like what's resource management in a board game, you know, what's asymmetric powers, all that kind of stuff, you know. I love this book. I don't think it'll be for everyone. It's a board game book. If you like your board games, pick it up because it does write a really good short history. I mean, each chapter, I mean, there's 40 chapters, whatever it is. It's a week, it's like a pamphlet on each book, and that's the only a pamphlet on each board game. That's my only downside to this because it's short, you know. I wanted a lot more, but yeah, this is a great book about board games. Next one is Adventures in the Screen Trade by William Goldman. Again, there's a big subtitle to this. I'm rapidly losing light. I'm going to have to come closer to you. So William Goldman is known probably best for writing The Princess Bride. But this is before he did that, so it's based in 1982. And William Goldman is a prolific and known screenwriter. And it's basically, the main theme of this book is no one in Hollywood knows what they're doing. Basically. And it's typical William Goldman. He's quite funny and sarcastic through it. And I love that sarky, right up British comic streets, I guess. Yeah, it's looking at his experiences in the movie business, a bit of history of what's happened, like directors messing things up, actors not coming to set, the kind of like mistreatment of screenwriters, the marketing and the producers not talking to the screenwriters, not talking to the directors. Everybody's scared. So this is an honest look at his experiences, you know, from 1982. Remember that, look from 1982 backwards. But I think you can still apply what he's saying about Hollywood and the movie business today. I like to read, because I think he's still alive, William Goldman. I like to read a book of his experience post 1982. But yeah, this is a honest, funny look at his experience in the movie business. Really good book, I recommend it. The next one, again, has a big subtitle. I can't remember. But this is Ask a Historian. I think it's 50 questions. Blah, 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 blah. So it's 50 questions in this book, and it's by Greg Jenner. Oh, I absolutely adore this book. Greg Jenner, I'm not sure if this is international, but in the UK, there's a series of books called Horrible Histories, and they're kind of kid books, and they explain periods in time. So talk about horrible Tudors and the Stuarts. I talk about the World Wars. It explains a lot of things, but it's aimed at children and young adults. And Greg Jenner works on some of the screen scripts of the cartoons or TV series or whatever it was. And he is funny. He's a funny guy, and I absolutely love this book. So each chapter is separated from a question that he's been asked. So why is Italy called Italy? How? Oh, there's loads of why did we celebrate birthdays? There's loads of bizarre stuff in here. There's again, but he delivers each with like a really comic flair, and it makes history interesting, right? And he'll say, so this is not my speciality. Like, people ask him, historical figures in the past, who would you pick to go on a heist with? It's like those kind of just random questions are like, okay, yeah, let me think about this now, and I'll just write like a big comic chapter. I absolutely adored this book. It is great. It's a sort of book that you can just chill to in the back and read. Oh, I'll just take one question at a time and see where he's going to go here. Really, really, really good book. And the last one I finished about an hour ago. This is Fake Heroes. This is by Otto English. So this is a more serious book compared to the last book I just talked about. And it's the last one I read in December. And I'm rapidly losing light here. It's getting like dark in it. Get closer. Here we go. Here we go. So this is looking at 10 figures in history and being brutally honest with them, because there's a lot of idolization of some people, and Otto's basically saying, okay, yeah, but look what they also have done, and then evaluate them on that. So he's looking at Che Guevara. He was a revolutionist, but in later life he was a mass murderer. It's looking at Mother Teresa. Okay, yeah, she was given a lot of money to go to a charity, but why didn't it go to all the charity? Well, the hospitals. Why didn't it go to the hospitals? It stayed. The majority of the money stayed within the bank account. And further goes on with that suffering. Suffering gets you closer to God, Jesus. So a lot of kids suffering in the hospitals, reusing needles, strapping kids down. Some of the kids died because they wouldn't send them to get antibiotics in the hospital. Really grim stuff, And then Mother Teresa, had a heart attack in '97, and then had full-on medical help in the hospital, didn't she? Full-on painkillers, all that kind of stuff. Bit of a hypocrite there. And it also talks about other figures. It talks about John Wayne, Henry V. Henry V is absolutely loved in the UK, Agincourt and all that. But, he was a religious fanatic, and he did kill a lot of innocent people. He knew that the French weren't going to give him part of the land, so he just used that as an excuse to attack France. So it's taken really, people that some people might like, and then bringing them down to earth. And he does it in a really honest way. I mean, it might rub you the wrong way because he's talking about people that you might like. But I think it's well worth a read. JFK, for instance, JFK is lauded, but he was a womanizer. He's seen women as trophies. So it's that kind of. So he takes 10 figures throughout history and then gives you a bit of things that you need to think about or never thought about. And I thought it was okay. It was a good book. It was a good book. And that is it, folks. And I think that was 12 books in total. And that's what before it completely just goes dark in here and I am sweating like a nutter. So they're 12 books I read in December, and I hope everyone had a New Year's, and I will speak to you shortly. Bye. by Booktube.